Okay, the next question on the menu today is, are negative numbers rational? Numbers rational. Before we ask what if negative numbers are rational, let's figure out what is a rational number. Okay, rational numbers are numbers that can be represented as a ratio between two integers. So numbers that can be represented as a ratio between two integers. Now, what is an integer? An integer is a number without a decimal part. Okay? Without a decimal. Some examples of integers versus not integer. Maybe some integers that you're familiar with. 41, -7, 0, 23. Those are all integers. Something that is not an integer, 1.5. Yeah, not an integer. It's got a decimal part. No decimal. For integers. Pi. Definitely not an integer because it's like 3.141592565. Numbers on my mind. Whatever. It's got decimals. It's not a rational. It's not an integer. Okay. So if a rational number can be represented as a ratio between two integers, I'll just like square this off. So it's kind of like a separate idea. A rational number is basically just something where you're able to find rational is equal to integer over integer. So an example like 5 is definitely a rational number because, well, you could represent it as an integer divided by another integer. You can do it like equals 5 divided by 1. That would be an example of a rational number. 3.3 repeating is a rational number because you know that is 10 divided by 3. 10 and 3 are both integers. The ratio between them will make a rational number 3.3, but the 3's repeat many times, infinity many times. Now, we know that it just has to be an integer on the top and the bottom. Now, let's say if we put a negative number on the top, the result will also be negative if the bottom is positive. So let's say we have like -7 over +11. The result of that is going to be a negative number. It's going to be -7 divided by 11. Probably should have chose something that I could do off the top of the dome. 7 divided 11. -0.6363, on and on and on. Yeah. So this is just an example. Like if a rational number, the definition is just an integer divided by another integer. And we know that integers are allowed to be negative, positive, like, -7 is an example of a negative integer. One integer divided by another integer, if one of them is negative, even if the bottom is negative and the top is positive, you can get a negative rational number. So are negative numbers rational? Only if they can be represented by the ratio of two integers. There are some negative numbers that are not rational. I can't say that every negative number is irrational, is rational. Like, I know that pi is irrational, I think. I hope so. Yeah, pi is certainly irrational. So that means like -1 multiplied by pi is also irrational. That's a negative number, but it's not rational. Being negative alone doesn't make you rational. Being an integer divided by another integer is what makes you rational. But being negative alone doesn't make you rational. So negative numbers can be rational, but there are negative non-rational or irrational. So, yeah. Okay, I'm just going to write that in as a comment. The above solution is correct. Maybe some info that negatives rational would be a little more clear. Okay, cool. So we can move on to the next question that we got.